Look closely the next time you're on a plane. At the bottom of your window, there's a tiny hole, almost invisible. Most passengers never notice it. Some assume it's a manufacturing flaw, or a drainage gap, or even a mistake. It is none of those things. That small hole is one of the most quietly important safety features in modern aviation. And it exists because of a lesson the airline industry learned the hard way. Most people who do notice the hole assume it lets air in for ventilation, or that it's simply decorative stitching in the plastic. Neither is true. The truth is stranger. This hole is intentionally drilled into the window during manufacturing, on purpose, every single time. Airplane windows aren't a single pane of glass like the ones in your house. They're built from multiple layers, and the hole sits in the middle one. To understand why, we have to go back to a time when airplane windows looked completely different, and when nobody fully understood what altitude could do to metal and glass. In the early 1950s, commercial aviation was entering a new era. The de Havilland Comet, the world's first commercial jetliner, promised something revolutionary: fast, smooth, high-altitude flight. Its windows, like much of its design, were shaped differently than what came before. Squared off with sharp corners, more like a train window than what we picture today. For a while, it seemed like the future had arrived. Then, within a year, several comets broke apart in mid-air without warning, killing everyone aboard. Investigators eventually traced the disasters to metal fatigue. Cracks that started again and again at the sharp corners of the windows where stress concentrated most. It was a devastating discovery, and it permanently changed how aircraft were designed. Windows became oval, materials were reconsidered, and engineers began paying far closer attention to something they'd underestimated: the constant, repeated stress that pressurized flight puts on every surface of a plane. That shift in thinking is where our tiny hole comes in. A modern airplane window isn't one piece of acrylic, it's actually three. There's an outer pane facing the sky. There's an inner pane, the one you casually rest your head against. And sandwiched between them is a middle pane, which most passengers never think about at all. The bleed hole is drilled into that middle pane, not the outer one. Here's the problem it solves. At cruising altitude, the air outside is thin and freezing, while the air inside the cabin is pressurized to feel roughly like standing on a mountain about 2,400 meters high. That difference in pressure pushes outward on the windows with real, constant force. Thousands of times on thousands of flights for the life of the aircraft. If only one pane had to withstand that pressure alone, it would be under enormous continuous strain. So engineers designed the window with a backup. The outer pane is the primary barrier against the cabin pressure, but that small hole lets a little bit of that pressurized cabin air quietly leak into the gap between the outer and middle panes. This does two things. It equalizes pressure so that the middle pane stays essentially unstressed under normal conditions, and it means that if the outer pane were ever to fail, the middle pane is already positioned to take over that job immediately, with no shock, no sudden shift, no drama. It's redundancy, built silently into a piece of plastic most people never look at twice. There's a second effect of that hole, and it's the one people find genuinely surprising. It also controls moisture. Warm, humid cabin air meeting a freezing outer pane would normally create fog or frost on the inside of the window, the way a cold drink sweats on a summer day. But by bleeding a small amount of air into the gap and letting the middle pane stay closer to cabin temperature, the design keeps the inner surface from fogging over. So that little hole is doing two jobs at once: a pressure safeguard and a built-in defogger, using nothing but a controlled leak and clever geometry. No sensors, no electronics, no moving parts, just physics, quietly working every time you fly. You can actually see this system reveal itself under specific conditions. Passengers sometimes notice a faint ring or smudge forming right around that hole during a flight, a tiny temporary halo. That's condensation forming exactly where the pressure equalizing air is passing through, a small visible signature of an invisible process happening constantly at 35,000 feet. It's not a flaw, it's the design working exactly as intended, briefly visible before it disappears again. So, Going back to that almost invisible hole at the bottom of your window, it isn't a defect and it isn't decoration. It's the direct descendant of a hard historical lesson about sharp corners and metal fatigue, redesigned into something safer, quieter, and smarter. It exists so that one layer of plastic never has to bear the full force of the sky alone, and so condensation never fogs your view. 3 panes, 1 small hole, and a century of aviation disasters and discoveries compressed into a detail most of us have flown past 1,000 times without a second glance. It's strange to think that something so small, so easy to overlook, carries that much engineering history behind it. But that's often how the most thoughtful designs work. The better they do their job, the less we notice them at all. Next time you're 35,000 feet in the air, take a look at that little hole. It's not just a hole, it's a quiet piece of history, still working. If you enjoy discovering the hidden stories behind everyday things, subscribe to Ordinary Secrets